On today's show, we're going to try something different. If you listen to the previous episode, you already know what I'm talking about. In case you haven't, we're running a two special episode series where me and my co-host, basically us here, will be interviewing each other on how we use AI. And today I'm taking the back seat and he's going to interview me.
Yeah,
So I'm Daniel,
I'm Matheus.
and this is the Human AI Experience.
So Daniel, now it's my turn to to interview you, which I'm really curious about your vision, and we already discussed a lot about AI, but it's good to have another perspective, what you were thinking and imagine for the future. So I want to start with when did you start first using AI?
I I think most people started using ChatGPT first. I started with MidJourney first. When I first discovered MidJourney, it was back when it was I think it was maybe in 2022. It was a bit right after ChatGPT basically became the news of the year.
Yeah,
And it was still inside Discord, which was terrible. But I was obsessed. I was reaching the limit of I was I reached the limit of the all the free tier. Then I paid, and I was reaching the limit of the paid subscription that it would give you like I think it was 10 hours of processing.
yeah,
Uh, and I think during that period of time, I think I generated I don't know 1,000 images in a month or something. It was crazy. I was just like, oh, I want to test it to the extreme this platform. So yeah, I think it was back then, and it was a lot of fun. I still have those images, by the way.
yeah. I
It's
remember
crazy
that.
how much he evolved.
I remember that, and I remember to see you working on them, like creating your own collages and like improving some of the eyes. And back then, the hands were kind of freaky, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah, you have four fingers or creepy fingers. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what tools do you use in your regular basis?
I think it's basically Midjourney and ChatGPT basically took up on the spotlight now. It's
Yeah.
I use it all the time because yeah, we use it for the podcast. So we have our custom GPTs there to help with the podcast. But I also have my personal AI assistant, which is basically my custom GPT that I train to sing or to sound like me when I write things. So it can help me to write emails, write messages, and grammar check everything that I do as well most of the time.
Yeah.
And I do use Perplexity a bit as well when I want the sources because it gives you the sources so you can look into the information that you're searching. And and I used to use a bit more Claude, um, but I think I'm just comfortable with ChatGPT, so I haven't seen a reason to migrate to Claude. But I heard pretty good things, and you can do mostly the same as what you could do on ChatGPT. Just a matter of changing or transitioning and understanding what's the difference between them. But
And
yeah, that's what I've been using more or less.
yeah. And I think you already told us about how you use these tools. But what are the benefits do you think these tools can bring you?
It's definitely time. It saves me a lot of time. Then, if I can automate or at least streamline some of these mundane tasks that I have to do right on a regular basis, like replying to emails or you know uh, reading a lot of reports or looking into a lot of large chunks of text, it can help you go through that much faster. So for me, it saves me a lot of time, and then I have certainly more time to creative work, which is stuff that I'm passionate about.
And going a little bit towards AI and design, like how do you balance AI generated content with your own creative vision?
Hmm. I It depends, I guess. It depends on the time I have and if I should compromise. But again, I think AI is speeding up my process, like my workflow, but at the same time is I'm the editor, right? So I'm not gonna send or I'm not gonna publish something that I don't think it's good enough. And because of my background in advertising, so I'm kind of trained to see the details, right? So I can look into an image and say, okay, this is things here don't make sense, the lighting is off. And at the same time I can also look into an image and say, okay, this is acceptable, and if I would have more time I would maybe probably tweak a few things, but it's good enough to go out. uh, which I think this is a skill very important for designers to have these in the age of AI, is that you're gonna be more and more of a curator. AI is gonna do a lot of things to you, and you have to decide which ones are good enough to be out. So I guess
Yeah.
that's the balance I try to strike in regards to my creative vision and AI generated content.
And it's funny to see how your eye is trained, like because you see details that I don't, like then when you highlight something that I don't see, then I start seeing, what you're seeing, like in a couple of seconds. So I totally understand that you don't publish anything that you don't kind of like. And talking about
Yeah,
tools, sorry.
attention to detail. It's really important.
So, how do you craft effective prompts for AI generated visuals? It's a really good question.
Yeah, that's. I think like it's really important to give the right context, right? And especially talking about talk about MidJourney, right? So in the first part of your prompt, you need to be able to give the context, describe the situation, and describe all the important elements. And as you progress to the end of your prompt, you should be able to include different styles. And it's really good, especially for MidJourney, to understand a bit of photography terms or cinematic or camera lenses or camera movements, right? Because if you know how to describe that, then the AI knows exactly how you want to frame the scene, or how far the object or the person will be in regards to the lenses of the virtual camera, right? Because everything that every image generated is basically coming from, it's basically a scene, right? You're basically composing a scene. And if you give it the AI, let's say, you say, I want this to have noise, and then you can add an ISO, which tells how much noise the film of the camera will have, and then it will actually add that to the image because it's trained into a lot of those images that actually have this specification. So if you need to understand a little bit of how to explain to the AI camera lenses, camera moves, and blocking. So I want a 35 millimeter Kodak film look, and then it's gonna give you that. It's crazy. Or a 8 millimeter uh, black and white film, right? It's gonna give you that look because you're being very specific, and they are being trained with that. So it's really important to understand a little bit of photography, a little bit of cinema language, because that's how what you're gonna use to prompt images more accurately.
And talking about your process of doing like this prompt, how do you refine AI generated designs to create like unique pieces?
I think there's a lot of experimentation there. So very often, or almost 100% of the time, the first prompt won't give you exactly what you want. So you have to keep iterating, trying different things. Maybe you ask it to upscale it, because on the process of upscaling an image, it's also going to change a bit because it runs that prompt again. So it's not very accurate. It's getting better, but it's not 100% accurate. And the same at the same time, when you are um, when you're upscaling an image in another tool, it will also kind of be a bit more creative in the process as well, like add some details there where maybe were not supposed to be there. So I think it's just to refine it and to be able to get something closer to what you have in your mind. You just have to do it and keep iterating until you get closer to what you want. It's an iterative process. Just to give an example, I did this freelance for a company, like an advertising agency, where I had to. The brief was to generate some 5 images for a storyboard, and they only needed 5 images, but they needed the same character in all of them. And seriously, it took me almost 900 images to get five that were usable, that you could look and then identify the same character. So you just need to generate a lot. They're not that good yet, but they're getting much better.
Nice. Yeah, that's the challenge, isn't it? To replicate the same. Yeah, so that's a
The same
good one.
character, yeah.
Yeah. So,
But now MidJourney has a function that does that, but
interesting.
it's not 100% good.
Yeah. So, about AI for UI and UX and user-centered design. So let's move a little bit towards this direction. How AI is shaping the future of UI UX design.
Wow, it's disrupting everything. I can see more and more, like whether there was at some point a split between UI and UX. I think this is happening again, and UI is getting closer. Basically, UI stands for user interface. So all the execution of that, it's coming closer to the engineering work or the development process, because a UI designer these days would work on the building components and then handing over to engineers who are then to build in React. So these two things more or less are getting combined. And then I've been hearing about a new position called design engineer, for example, where it's a combination of these two functions. Whether is a developer that it's going to simulate a little bit of the design uh, skills, or it's going to be a designer that is going to incorporate some of the coding skills, and then these two things are going to be a bit muddy, and maybe it's going to turn into one position. While UX is getting stronger, because that's the psychological part of the user experience. Basically is where is how you as a human being, as an emotional person, will react and will navigate towards a product interface.
Yeah.
And then you're talking about the emotional side of the of interaction, right? So, and there's a lot of scientific based triggers and laws of UX that you should be aware when you're doing UX design, right? And that's something that the AI don't normally get it right. It usually goes, it suggests something because it takes a shortcut. It suggests something that it's called dark patterns, and those are terrible user experiences because they hide important components. They are they are designed to keep you there, but they're not designed to actually give you what you want. So dark patterns are terrible, and then unfortunately the current AI tools that we have resort a little bit to that because those are shortcuts, and then they want to give you what you want in a short period of time, but they are usually not very good.
So you mentioned a little bit about research and how they take this like shortcut. Do you think there is any, or how do these AI powered UX research tools, they help you understand the user, or are they just like freaking it out and creating this shortcut to
So there are some tools that have been used that you can use while you're doing a user test. So I'm just going to try to explain how that works. So let's say you're having a user testing interview where the person on the other side of the camera is using the product that your company is producing, or you want to incorporate a new feature and you want to test that feature, right? And then you're recording this person using the prototype that you design, right? And you want their reactions, you want to see what they're doing so you can improve the product. So there are some AI tools that are analyzing the emotions that that person is going through, and then it's telling you and then generating a report afterwards on how that person felt when they were using that, and that's
yeah,
pretty cool. That's really remarkable.
that's interesting.
So then you can learn a lot, because a lot of those things that you get from user testing, it it's not what they say, it's what they do. So sometimes they say, I haven't seen the button, but they clicked on the button, so they've seen it, but not maybe consciously,
Yeah,
but unconsciously they actually know what to do. So there's a lot of things, but maybe their reaction to that prototype was, I just don't like this, and then it's hard to interpret that emotion. But if you have an AI doing that, it can give you much more. So I think
yeah,
this is a good example of how you could use AI for instance.
that's really interesting. But it kind of enters in this, especially in Europe, in these regulations, isn't it? Like that you cannot like kind of use the image of the person and stuff like that. So that's interesting to think about that.
Yeah, you have to have consent, right? But even to
Yeah,
record these meetings, it is there's they're usually GDPR compliant as well. So it's just a matter
there's
of,
ways.
yeah, telling them what they're agreeing upon, right?
Yeah,
We wouldn't use anything that it's not we are not allowed to.
yeah. And then moving a little bit towards our podcast and how do you create this the content and everything. How has AI impacted in your workflow as a podcast host?
I think it's essential these days. It's because it saves you so much time, and there's, like you mentioned in the previous episode, like there's so much that goes out of editing, and if you don't have AI to help that, it's just almost renders the whole thing impossible, because it will take so much time that you will have to have an entire full time 9 to 5 dedicated, dedicate your full time to do this,
Yeah,
which is not our case, right? So I think it helps a lot. It saves us a lot of time, and then also it helps us to also test some ideas, and it can analyzes the statistics that we're getting from social media posting, and then try to understand. It helps us try to understand where we are with the podcast, right? So it helps a lot.
yeah. And so, what role do you see AI playing in podcast editing and post production?
Critical, and I think it's still it can be even better. We're using Descript for the to help out with the editing. So you use this tool to where you while you're editing, the transcript of the episode, and also the shorts. And I basically, the way we divided the task, right, I'm basically responsible for taking the shorts and
Yeah,
fixing the automatic generated subtitles, because there's a lot of stuff that sometimes gets
yeah,
misunderstanding.
yeah,
So we just need to tweak that, and then I'm also basically scheduling that into different social media. And if we didn't have these AI tools to help with generating the video titles, they are basically mandatory for YouTube, for example. I mean, doing this manually would just take forever, and then that's not the most important part. Of course, it's the content, but at least it needs to be there. So
yeah.
there are some rules that we have to keep, and then those tools help a lot.
And could AI generated audio translations make podcasting more globally accessible? What do you think about this?
I think so. Even though but this is because I'm passionate about cinema, right? And I don't like to watch dubbed films because I would like to listen to the
Original.
original voice from the actors, right? Because there's
Yeah.
actors there interpreting, and I think I share the same particular wish for content as well. I would like to see the original voices, but those AI tools are getting so sophisticated that you can have the same voice of the person but in a different language.
Yeah.
And I think that depending on where it's applied, I think it's tolerable and I think it's fine. And if it serves if it helps to democratize the content, right, and it gives more reach to important information, I'm totally up for it. I think if more people will have access to this, I think it's really really important. We
Yeah.
should consider doing that.
Yeah, definitely. um, so, I'm talking about AI for branding and marketing design. Have you used AI to generate branding assets like logos or typographies?
Yes, I do think it's pretty bad at generating logos still, because it's lacking that human creativity of maybe hiding using uh, negative space to hide an arrow, for example. In the
Yeah.
case of the FedEx logo, if you don't know, the FedEx logo has a small arrow hidden in that logo, and AI cannot do that these days. But it can help you in other ways, right? For example, it can suggest typography styles for you, and it does a pretty good job at showing you one typography style and then a complementary typography style, and you can use those, and that takes a lot of time for you to just go manually test those things. And it can help you also generate some color palettes for branding and for the company that you're working on, and then what kind of colors do you use, if you should use complementary colors or not. So it does help on other aspects of branding.
Yeah. And do you use AI like to create marketing visuals or even social media content?
Yeah, because it just saves a lot of time, and then you can replace uh, pretty okay stock image, image bank images from websites, for example, with AI generated ones. If you know where to look and how to curate those, they do a pretty good job, and then you almost don't tell the difference. So, and I think that's where actually AI is automating a lot of ads around the world nowadays, because you can't tell the difference,
Yeah.
especially if it's a small format in a banner or somewhere. So, yeah, I've done it, and it's a big part of my job to just automate a lot of those
Yeah.
things.
And actually, it's like you can search for exactly the image that you wanted, so you can find like exactly what you wanted if you generate it automatically instead of like searching for something similar to what you have in mind. So that's interesting how AI is moving towards that. So the last session, it's like ethics, challenges, and the future of AI in design. So do you think AI can ever fully replicate human creativity?
Never say never,
Yeah,
but I think for now, at least the way things are at the moment, it cannot replace human creativity. It's just going to give you a bit more of the same, and it's still very grounded on some stuff that has been done before. So usually it tends to suggest you things that it has been done. So if you really want to explore or innovate, you are trying to do something that hasn't been done before. So I think that's where there's some limitations in regards to what AI can give it at the moment. But if we achieve AGI and then we have an intelligent being around us, then I think we're fucked because we're
yeah,
I think that being might be way more creative than us.
Yeah,
But then, it's another form of intelligence. So the sky is the limit.
yeah, definitely. And what excites you most about the future of AI in design?
I think what it's interesting is that we're seeing there's a transition now from, and this is pure. It sounds very science fiction, right? But we're going towards an era where we're gonna talk to our computers. Um, we're already doing this, but if you talk to ChatGPT, for example, you are more or less doing that. But think about all these films from couple of decades ago where people talk to their computers, right? They have a robot next to them that really interacts, almost like behaves like a human,
Yeah,
some sort of artificial intelligence. Or you can also, for example, on 2001, you're talking to this robot in the spaceship that is powering the spaceship. So what excites me is the possibility to get to where science fiction has been playing in the last couple of years, but it also scares me because I think we're gonna lose control, and in the moment we lose control, then we're at the mercy of whatever happens, right?
yeah,
But it's really interesting where we're going, and by doing this transition, we're also transitioning in how you interact with these machines, right? And that's a design paradigm that is changing as well. We're going from a digital or a user interface to a conversational interface, and that's also opens up new frontiers to be explored. So what is the user experience of talking to a machine? What if there's a display somewhere? If you're talking to something and you're using audio, what is in that display, right? What are the mechanisms to understand conversation? So it just opens up new possibilities to be explored.
yeah, definitely. And if you could build a if you could build the perfect AI tool for designers, what would it be?
Wow. I think it would. Deixa eu pensar um pouco, porque é foda também. I think the best AI tool for designers would it be one that has been trained a lot with user behavior and that can actually help you design better. Um, or if it does it for you, it truly understands all the UX and the user experience logic, and so it's more like helping you almost as an assistant, and to do your job, or just pull research or information that you would need the moment you need, so you don't have to go and try to find it, right? Because a lot of the design process is trying to interpret data, interpret user behavior, and try to solve big problems to make sure users can achieve what they need to achieve. And a lot of that is also looking into data, looking into numbers, going and dissecting this user tests and user behavior. And if that AI tool can do that for you and give you that information when you need it, oh, that's a game changer. So I would go that way.
Yeah, that's interesting. So it's more like a tool who understands human being, your behavior, than actually a tool itself. Like,
Yeah, or something or like a tool that understands what you're doing and what you're designing, and if you ask it, it can bring that information to you instead of you having to go and find that information when you need it.
oh, that's exciting. That's a that's a nice tool, I think.
Should we work with that?
Yeah. Okay, then I think we reached the end of the episode. So thanks for your answers, and see you in the next episode.
Yeah. See you next week.
Bye bye.
If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. It's free and helps us a lot. This way, it can help us also reach new listeners. Oh, and if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform to stay up to date on our latest episodes. If you have any questions for us, reach out to us at hello@humanaixp.com or connect with us on Instagram. Thanks for listening. See you next week.